If it's Friday night, say yeah for Strictly Sports. Hello, friends. Anthony Blair here with you for the winter premiere, if you will, of Strictly Sports. We're glad to have you with us. Joined as always by good old MF Michael Fletcher and Michael Bullock. Man alive. Short docket this week. We don't have much on it, but we definitely do have some exciting things to get into, which is always a good thing here. So, started off with Monday night. Oh, Monday night. National championship, the college football playoff national championship. We ended up for the third year in a row getting a game for the ages. The last 2 years with Alabama and Clemson. This year, an all SEC final. Alabama and the Maiden Georgia Bulldogs. And it was the Alabama Crimson Tide coming from behind to defeat the Maiden Georgia Bulldogs in their backyard of Mercedes Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia, 26-23 in overtime. Whoa. Where do we start? I mean, of course, we know what happened. We had no score in the first quarter, surprising. But then in the second quarter, it was all Georgia in the second quarter. Rodrigo Blankenship with two field goals in the quarter, one from 41 and another from 27 to make it 6-0. And then Mecole Hardman with a 1 yard rushing touchdown made it 13-0 at the half. And then in the third quarter, Alabama gets on the board thanks to a bold and gutsy move by Alabama head coach Nick Saban. Say what you want about him, but he pulled the trigger. He benched his star quarterback Jalen Hurts due to ineffective play, and brings on this young man from Hawaii by the name of, and if I mess this up, I apologize. I'm not good with Hawaiian names, but Tua Tagovailoa, a 6 yard touchdown pass to Henry Ruggs III to cut it to 13-7. And then just when you thought Bama was coming back, here comes Georgia. Jake Fromm, 80-yard bomb to Mecole Hardman, 20-7, Georgia. And then Andy Papanastas with a 43-yard field goal cuts it to 20-10 after three. And then in the fourth quarter, 9:24 mark, Papanastas with a 30-yard field goal, 20-13. And then with 3:49 to go, Tagovailoa with a touchdown, with a 7-yard touchdown pass to Calvin Ridley. We're tied at 20. And then, just as regulation was ending, Alabama was in position to win the national championship. Andy Papanastas came on for a 36-yard field goal that would have won it for Bama. Nope, wide left. Well, more than wide left. He shanked it. Overtime. Georgia got it first. Rodrigo Blankenship, 51-yard field goal just through the uprights. 23-20 Georgia. Bama's first play in overtime, they get sacked. It was second and infinity for Alabama. And then on the very next play, Tua Tagovailoa, a 41-yard bomb to Devontae Smith. Game over. Alabama, once again, college football playoff national champions. Where does this game rank in the annals of championship games? I can tell you right now, the spoiler alert, one of us on this panel has already gone on the record and said this is the greatest national championship game of all time. You'll find out who that is in a short. But let's crunch the numbers here. Jalen Hurts was only 3 out of 8 for 21 yards and was sacked once. Had a rating of almost 60. Nick Saban benches him, brings on Tua Tagovailoa, and he went 14 out of 24 for 166 yards, 3 touchdowns. He threw an interception and was sacked twice, had a rating of 149.4. For Alabama's rushing attack, Najee Harris led the rushing attack with 64 yards on 6 carries. For the Made in Georgia Bulldogs, it was Sony Michel who led both teams in rushing. He had 98 yards. Nick Chubb, Georgia's star running back, only 25 yards on 18 carries. Receiving, Devontae Smith was the leading receiver for Alabama, 41 yards, but that was all on one catch, and it was the catch that won it all. Calvin Ridley, 32 yards and a score. Henry Ruggs III, 29 yards and a score. For Georgia, it was Riley Ridley, 82 yards on 6 catches. And Mecole Hardman, 2 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown. Kicking game, Andy Pappanastis for Alabama was 2 out of 4, missed 2 field goals, but was 2 for 2 on extra points. Rodrigo Blankenship had a perfect night, made all 3 field goal attempts, 2 extra points. And Josh Jacobs, 42 yards in returns. Mecole Hardman, 40 yards in returns. 2 kick returns for 42 yards. And Trayvon Diggs had 5 punt returns for 38 yards. Mecole Hardman had all the returns for Georgia. 3 kick returns for 40 yards and 2 punt returns for 34 yards. J.K. Scott, 6 punts, averaging 47.5 yards along the 56. Cameron Nizialek for Georgia, 6 punts, 51 yards, and Bryce Ramsey, 1 punt for 19 yards. Other numbers to be aware of here. The Alabama defense. Alabama's defense combined for 4 sacks. Yes, 4 sacks and an interception for the Bama defense as a unit. For the Georgia defense as a unit, 3 sacks and 1 interception. So those are pretty much the schematics here. There are other schematics I'm trying to get. Well, there's one other schematic that I wanted to get, but I'm gonna have to really look further. But man, it definitely will go up. Will go down as one of. It'll definitely rank as a national championship game for the ages. Absolutely. I mean, so many incredible games over the years. I mean, in these last 3 years, I mean, college football playoff has produced 3 consecutive instant classics when it comes to the national championship. And well, I actually found the numbers that I was looking for. Okay, here we go. These 2 teams combined for 736 total yards. Alabama 371, Georgia 365. Georgia 22 first downs, Alabama 20 first downs. They combined for 12 penalties. Each team had 6 penalties. Georgia totaling 65 yards. Alabama's totaling 41 yards. Time of possession, Georgia had the ball longer. They had it for 33 minutes and 43 seconds to 26 minutes and 17 seconds for Alabama. Georgia 2 turnovers, Alabama 1 turnover. And now, third down efficiency. Georgia, 8 out of 19. Alabama, only 3 out of 14. Fourth down efficiency, Alabama 1 for 1. Georgia didn't even go for it on 4th down. So those are pretty much all the schematics that I wanted to get into. Nick Saban now a total of 6 national championships overall. This is his 5th with Alabama. He also won 1 back when he was coaching at LSU in 2003. Now, I'll be real honest with you. There's a small part of me that's not happy with this outcome because, I consider Alabama, I consider Alabama the New England Patriots of college football. I mean, in the sense that they always win. I was kind of hoping this was going to be the year that we could, I was hoping for another year we could spread the wealth. I mean, I'll be honest. Last year when Clemson won, I was so thrilled for Clemson when they beat Bama. I mean, it was so awesome. It was like David beating Goliath, if you will. And I thought we were going to get that again, but once again, as I always say, and as the authority always like to say, best for business wins out yet again. And well, um, I do there are two people that I know who are huge Alabama fans. Of course, the one that the three of us know, our good friend Jason Hixenbaugh. I mean, you can bet he was grinning from ear to ear because we all know how much of a Bama mark that he is. And then there's a gentleman that I go to my church with, a gentleman I'm very close with. His name is Bruce Olson. He is a diehard Alabama fan, and I could only imagine watching the game that he must have been going off the rail in a good way. And I am sure that the next time I see him, which could be this Sunday, I'm not sure if he'll be there, but if I do see him, I'll try to get his thoughts and pass them on to you. But but I'm happy for those two guys when it comes to the Bama circle. So, but man, 5 national championships in 9 years. I don't know about you guys, but I consider that a dynasty as far as I'm concerned. Best for business, um, evil empire, if you will. They do it again, and just when you think, just when you think you have them down, just when Georgia thought they had the answers, Alabama changed the questions. That's all there is to it. So, but I'll take the moment. I will send out my congratulations to Nick Saban and all members of the Alabama Crimson Tide. You guys earned it. You deserved it. I still didn't think you belonged in the field, but you proved me wrong. You shut me up, and I'll take the humble pie and I'll take the egg on my face on this one. So congrats, you guys. I mean, 5 titles in 9 years. And Nick Saban, I'll tell you, man, gutsy call. That was a gutsy call to bench your number one quarterback, Jalen Hurts. He was ineffective, and he had the cojones to put in Tagovailoa. And go figure, this freshman from the state of Hawaii comes in and and etches his name among the unsung heroes that have led teams to championships, whether it be in college or in the pros. I mean, he basically pulled a Jeff Hostetler, if you will. You remember when Jeff Hostetler had to was called on to quarterback the New York Giants when they went on that run to Super Bowl 25 when their star quarterback Phil Simms was injured, and he came on and that story. So he's just one of many Tagovailoa is. Unsung heroes can come at any time, and that young man, I know he is going to treasure that for the rest of his life. So very happy for that young man. And as I always say, just give someone an opportunity, and they'll prove you right. They'll make it worth it. So I think this is the 11th national championship for Alabama in the modern era. MF and I were looking up tables of national championships from yesteryear and before this modern era, from like the early years, and Yale and Princeton uh, recognized national champions from like the 1800s and the 1900s and early years. And I believe we found that this was the 17th overall title for Alabama. But if we're talking modern era, this is the 11th overall. the Bama legacy of Paul Bear Bryant and Gene Stallings and now Nick Saban. I mean, say what you want about Saban, but I think he is the best coach in the game today. If you want my honest opinion. So remember, Bama, I'll say it like this. As a Notre Dame fan and these two guys as Michigan fans and all the other teams, your Georgias, your Oklahomas, your Clemsons, your Miami U's, and the whole 9 yards. It's open doors. It's open season next year. And don't think they're not going to be gunning for you boys. They all get a shot at you boys. So, man alive. I mean, September, late August, early September cannot get here fast enough. This will go down as one of the greatest and most exciting and Shakespearean drama laden college football seasons of all time. So, congratulations, Alabama. You earned it. Even though I didn't think you belonged, you earned it. So, oh boy. So, with that being said, Girl MF Michael Fletcher, come on in. You had a chat with Jason Hicksonbaugh, our good friend, on the Facebook, the comment chat. And I'm gonna let you folks in right now. Remember that spoiler alert where I said one of us said this was the greatest national championship game of all time? MF already went on the record. He went on the record Monday night and considered this Alabama-Georgia title game the greatest college football national championship game in history. 4 days later, MF, do you still feel that way?
I still do. I think it was because of the drama, the excitement, the way the game went down. It had a feeling of Super Bowl 51 and how we were calling that the greatest Super Bowl ever. So, I mean, yeah, it had that kind of drama, excitement, the unbelievable play. Yeah, there was some controversy in the game. Some fans were really yelling about the referees kind of giving the business to Georgia on more than one call, which, granted, I'll give you that. There was some calls that went against Georgia that maybe should not have gone against them. So, yes, I could see that. I know some people definitely was like that. Maybe I should have eased the brakes on that, saying that was the greatest national championship game ever. But I'm not going to ease the brakes. And anybody who thinks that because two SEC teams were in the final and because somebody did say that, she's like, this was the greatest championship game ever because there were two SEC teams. Anything to do with it? Yeah, it was the SEC. Yes, Georgia and Alabama were in the final, but yet it was just as good. It delivered in all factions. I mean, we had literally in other than Alabama and Clemson, that was, I would probably say, about 2.5 to 3. This college football playoff easily as one of the greatest college football playoffs ever. 3 years of this, and this, in my mind, was the greatest of them all. This Final Four was, without a doubt, the most worthy of the Final Fours because you had Oklahoma and Georgia and the epicness of the Rose Bowl game that was literally better than the national championship game of Texas versus USC years ago. And I even called that the greatest Rose Bowl game of all time and the greatest Rose Bowl game matchup in that stadium's history, illustrious history. Literally, in my opinion, the greatest of the three national title games. I'm gonna call it the way I see it. So it was unbelievable. From at first it looked like Georgia was gonna run Alabama right out of the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, blow them out, absolutely destroy them. And granted, I felt the same way. I thought that the Final Four should have been, honest, Clemson, Oklahoma, Georgia, and I had Ohio State 4. I did not have Alabama in there. I thought that Alabama didn't deserve to be there, but they got in. But I did pick them to beat Clemson when they got in. They did. I picked them again to win the national championship, and they did. So obviously, whatever happened, happened. And let it be. I'm happy for Alabama. They deserve to win it after what they did. Now it's upward and onward to the next season. So I got nothing more to say. Anthony, you really broke everything down. Michael Bullock, I give it to you, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, what a game that was Monday night. I mean, yeah, I mean, it was definitely one of the greatest national championships of championship games of all time. I mean, yeah, I mean, going into this college football playoff, I mean, some of us said that Alabama didn't deserve to be there, and that a team like Ohio State deserved to be in the college football playoff. Well, I mean, I agree with that, but it is what it is. I mean, they the committee went with the 4 best teams in the college football playoff, and all I can say is that Rose Bowl game was freaking awesome, going to double overtime. I mean, with Georgia basically surviving the high-powered Oklahoma Sooners offense, and then Alabama, of course, beating Clemson, getting some revenge from that national championship loss last season, setting up for that all SEC national championship game. And basically, I mean, Georgia got off to such a good start, and we were all thinking that Georgia was going to win the national championship, but give Alabama credit. I mean, they basically came right back to tie the game, and basically had a chance to win it in regulation. And their field goal kicker missed it very badly, and he also missed badly on another try too. And yeah, you got to give Nick Saban credit. I mean, he saw that Jalen Hurts was struggling. He decided to put in the backup, and boy howdy, he really stepped up his game, and was one of the reasons why Alabama came back to tie it and forced overtime. I mean, Georgia then got the first possession of the overtime period, and they got a field goal, and then it was Alabama's turn to go on offense. A few plays later, back up through a touchdown pass, game over. Alabama is once again your national champions, 5th title in 9 years. And of course now 6 overall for Nick Saban. I mean, we can definitely say this Alabama team is a dynasty, and we keep saying it so many times. This Alabama team, they don't rebuild, they reload. And that's why they've been so good at recruiting, finding really good players. And I wouldn't be surprised that they recruit some more good players this recruiting season. And who knows? They may be back in the national title picture again. But we'll just have to wait and see. So congratulations to Alabama for winning the national championship, but major props to the Maine and Georgia Bulldogs for putting one hell of an effort. So, yeah, now it's on to the next season of college football, and who knows what next year's national championship game is going to bring. So, yeah, there's really nothing more for me to add. Florio basically got into the schematics, and I think the only thing we could say now, Florio, it's time to move on to our preview of divisional weekend in the National Football League.
Let's do it. Here we go. Divisional weekend kicks off tomorrow. And without any further ado, let's start it off. First game will be on the NFC side. It will feature the number 6 seed, the Atlanta Falcons, squaring off against the number 1 seed, the Philadelphia Eagles, from Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. This game will be on NBC. Check your local NBC affiliates. On our NBC affiliate, of course, NBC 10. Kickoff will be at 4:35. Of course, you know who's going to be working this game. It will be Al Michaels, along with Chris Collinsworth, Michelle Tafoya. We might have Heather Cox on the sidelines too. One of the announcer sheets that I read listed Heather Cox on there as well. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. But the usual Sunday night crew will be there for this Atlanta-Philadelphia matchup. And believe it or not, guys, Atlanta is a 3-point favorite in this game. And this will mark the 4th time that these two teams are meeting in the postseason. Now, when it comes to the history here, we're not going by regular season. We're going by postseason. And they've met 3 times before. And the Philadelphia Eagles lead the all-time series between these two in the postseason 2-1. Their first meeting came in 1978 and in NFC first-round playoff, as it was known back then. This was before the wild card era. And in that 78 game that was in Atlanta at the old Fulton County Stadium, the Falcons won that game 14-13. Their second meeting was in 2002 at the old Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, an NFC divisional playoff, and the Philadelphia Eagles went on to win that one 20-6. And their most recent meeting was, of course, 2004, meeting in the NFC Championship game at Lincoln Financial Field, and it was the Eagles who defeated the Falcons 27-10 to get them to only their second Super Bowl in franchise history. So those are all the schematics here. So we're going to kick it off with good old MF Michael Fletcher. MF, come on in. Number 6 seed Atlanta Falcons went into Los Angeles and absolutely put a chokehold, literally, on the Los Angeles Rams. They literally manhandled them, punched them in the mouth, and so much for that vaunted Rams offense. They went into the Coliseum, made themselves at home. Now they go into Philadelphia against another great offense, but without their franchise quarterback.
And that is going to be the problem. That's a major problem. You don't got Carson Wentz. You got Nick Foles. That is a major problem. And boys, I'm calling it here. We're going to get an upset. Philly falls tomorrow. Look, don't get me wrong. I love Philadelphia. Defensively, they're really strong. They're really good they are really good with the running game because they got a 2-headed monster, but you don't have a quarterback. And when you don't have a quarterback, that makes the line a little iffy because can you protect them? Can you give them the time and the opportunities? And plus, if you notice last week, that Atlanta D really got after Jared Goff. They got him pretty good during the game as well, and they were able to limit Todd Gurley as well in that type of situation. Plus, you got Tevin Coleman, Devontae Freeman. They're going to be getting ready to go off. Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu. This is still the same Atlanta Falcons team that went to the Super Bowl last year, guys. And that's the one thing. Now, Matt Ryan is going to be the liability. Nobody really knows what we're going to get from Matt Ryan, because of the fact that, can he deliver in a clutch situation? Last week was a good performance. Now you're going up against literally a top 10 D in Philadelphia. Can you do that to them? If you do, Atlanta wins going away. I got no doubts about it in my mind. This one's going to be tight. This one's going to be close. But I think Atlanta just has the right wherewithal of winning. And one funny stat line, and I got to say this. When Atlanta scores more than 20 points, they're undefeated. They're 11-0. When they're under 20, believe it or not, guys, they lose every time. They've never won when they got in under 20. They're going to get over 20 points in this game, in my mind. I think they will. They will advance. They move on to the NFC Championship game. Give me Atlanta to win this one 27-14. Michael Bullock, I give it to you.
Yes, and I'm actually gonna go. I'm gonna agree with Fletch. I'm going with the Falcons as well. I mean, no Carson Wentz. I mean, that's really gonna hurt the Eagles. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like Nick Foles. I mean, but he's no Carson Wentz, and he is definitely not the Nick Foles that we saw back in 2013 that put up those offensive numbers. And I think it's gonna be tough for him, and Atlanta, they're to me, they are the more complete team when it comes to, as far as I'm concerned, they're starting to look like that team that made that run to Super Bowl 51 last season. And when they went into LA and beat the Rams, like they made a statement. When you got that two-headed monster running back with Devontae Freeman and with the Julio Jones at receiver, and of course Matt Ryan, and if Carson didn't tear that ACL, I definitely would go with Philadelphia. But I'm sorry, I can't do it. Atlanta wins. I'm actually going to go 30-14 is going to be my final score. So nothing more to say. Before I give it to you.
After some early season struggles, the Falcons now have the look of a low seed that no team wants to play. They've won 7 of their past 9 games, and last Saturday night's chokeout of the high-scoring Los Angeles Rams demonstrated how Atlanta can win a defensive/ball possession game. It was amazing to see the Falcons pull out the 26-13 win, even as quarterback Matt Ryan threw shorter 3.8 air yards a pass than in any game of his career. Their ability to navigate a cross-country trip and a slippery track at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum bodes well for another long playoff run. As for the Philadelphia Eagles, these are teeth-grinding times in Philadelphia, where the season-ending knee injury of quarterback Carson Wentz has stunted anticipation about a Super Bowl run. The Eagles' offensive scoring output dropped by almost half in the 3 games backup Nick Foles has started, from 28.3 points to 15.7 points a game. And it's fair to question whether they can navigate the playoffs without Wentz. And in a trend that has gained attention recently, the Eagles' defense allowed 7 touchdown passes over their final 4 games, tied for 3rd most in the NFL. Could they have discovered a solution during their first round bye? Bottom line, it's pretty wild, but really not debatable that a number 6 seed opened as a 2.5 to 3 point favorite in the playoff game at the number 1 seed. A top seed has never been an underdog in its first playoff game per ESPN stats and information, but it's an appropriate recognition of the Falcons' winning formula and concern about the Eagles' post-Wentz drop-off. Despite being the 6th seed, Atlanta quieted any doubters last Saturday. They held the Rams' electric offense to only 13 points while doing plenty of work against Los Angeles' defense. The Matt Ryan-Julio Jones connection was strong, and the Falcons' pass rush kept revving like it has all season long. During the divisional round, Atlanta's experience will shine through again. Behind another massive performance from Jones, they'll put up just enough points against an opportunistic Eagle defense to come away with the win. Maybe a late turnover by Foles will seal the deal. So, gentlemen, I agree. I'm going to make it unanimous. I, too, have the Atlanta Falcons winning this game. I think it'll be a lot closer than you boys think. 24-21 Atlanta over Philadelphia. So, with that being said, let's move on to our our next matchup, the other Saturday game, the Saturday night game, if you will, it will feature from the AFC, the number 5 seed, the Tennessee Titans, squaring off against the number 1 seed, your reigning and defending, undisputed Super Bowl champion New England Patriots. Gillette Stadium, Foxborough, Massachusetts, on CBS, your local CBS affiliate. For us, it's WPRI 12. Kickoff slated for 8:15 tomorrow night. Hello, friends. Jim Nance, Tony Romo, Tracy Wolfson, Jay Feely, they'll be there. And to the surprise of no one, New England is a huge favorite. As of now, they are slated as 13 to 14-point favorites against the Titans. And when you look at the history of these two teams, dating back to their days as the Houston Oilers and the Boston Patriots, respectively, this marks their third postseason meeting all time. The first one came back in 1978 in a divisional playoff at the old Foxborough Stadium in Foxborough, and the then Houston Oilers put a 31-14 whooping on the New England Patriots. And then 25 years later in 2003, on the coldest game in New England Patriots history, 4 degrees at kickoff. Trust me, MF and I, do MF and I know that very well, because we did this one. New England defeated Tennessee 17-14 on that frozen Arctic night in Foxborough in January of 2004, 4 degrees at kickoff. And it got colder as it went on. But it was New England who won it 17-14. So third all-time postseason meeting. And once again, it's a divisional playoff matchup. So I believe I have all the schematics out of the way for the moment. So it's only fitting we started off here with our resident New England Patriots super fan, Michael Bullock. I mean, all right, Bullock, here we go. As our friends at WPRI 12 is calling it, it's another playoff push for the New England Patriots. And well, we know what Tennessee did. They went into Kansas City and they made Sean McDonough basically go into puberty again because of the voice cracking. So, but nonetheless, Tennessee went into Arrowhead. They pulled a big upset against the Chiefs. Huge comeback. They took out Travis Kelce, and then that pretty much opened the door for them, and they came back. So can they do the unthinkable? Can they go into Gillette, and can they beat the Patriots tomorrow night? Or is it going to be, as we've seen so many times from your team, Bullock, business as usual?
I mean, and here's another thing I like to call when it comes to the Patriots running another Super Bowl title. I like to call it the for 6. They're going for their 6th Super Bowl title. So anyway, getting to this game, I mean, yeah, I don't think anybody's coming with going into Arrowhead and beating Kansas City. But I'll just say this right now: Kansas City crapped themselves. I mean, they couldn't do diddly squat in that half, and Tennessee took advantage of it and basically, I mean, pulled off the comeback. And for them, if they have any chance of going into Foxborough and pulling off the upset, one of the things I think they need to do is go on a nice long drive, keep Tom Brady in that offense on the sideline, and Marcus Mariota extend plays with his legs. I mean that's where he's good at, and also I think for Tennessee, I mean, defensively pressure Tom Brady, because if he has any time, he is going to burn them. So they need to do some of that if they have any chance of pulling off an upset. And for the Patriots, of course, I think the bye week came at the right time for them. I mean, I think Tom Brady's going to come in fresh, and of course, you got some key guys coming back. You got Chris Hogan, who looks like he's going to play tomorrow night. You might get James White and Rex Burkhead back, and also Alan Branch. So they're getting these guys back at the right time. And basically, they didn't have Gronk last year for the postseason, and he's back. And I think he's fixing to have a big game tomorrow night, knowing that how much he missed their Super Bowl run last season. So I expect that. And I mean, Tennessee, let's be real honest. They were able to do the impossible, but I just don't see them doing it going into Foxborough and beating New England. So I got the Patriots winning this one. I'm going to say my 6-17. No one beats the Tennessee Titans, moves on to a championship, which will be, of course, back in Foxborough next Sunday afternoon. So can the Titans pull off the upset, or will it be another AFC Championship appearance for my team?
I'll tell you, Bullock, Tennessee has already advanced further than most thought after upsetting the Chiefs in the wild card round. The Titans did, however, demonstrate a winning playoff formula. A reliance on the power running of tailback Derrick Henry and the improvisation of quarterback Marcus Mariota. Henry averaged 3.8 yards after first contact against Kansas City, which is precisely the kind of playmaking an underdog team would need to pull off a road playoff victory. Some observers were rattled by a round of sub-Hall of Fame play from quarterback Tom Brady, who threw interceptions in 5 consecutive late-season games. But remember the big picture. In a league with no perfect teams, the Patriots have lost only once since October 1st. Brady has had an extra week to nurse shoulder and Achilles injuries, and tight end Rob Gronkowski is as healthy as he has ever been in January. It seems likely that the franchise is headed toward an off-season reset to some degree. Coordinators Josh McDaniels and Matt Patricia are receiving heavy interest as potential head coaches, but for now, the relatively weak state of the AFC bracket puts the Patriots in excellent position for a run at their 8th Super Bowl appearance in the Tom Brady, Bill Belichick era. The bottom line is, this is a game the Patriots should and almost certainly will win. An AFC Championship game rematch possibly looms against the Steelers. We'll get into that in just a short. Tennessee Titans have not defeated the New England Patriots since 2002. As great or lucky as their wild card effort was, I do not see them ending that losing streak on Saturday. It's been a good run, but the fun stops here from Mike Mularkey and company. As tough as this Titan defense has been this season, they don't stand a chance against the NFL's top offense. Tom Brady will do his usual thing, making ridiculous throws, minimizing errors, and taking advantage of the wide array of weapons available to him. With the recent resurgence of Dion Lewis, I would expect New England to lean on the ground game as well. That doesn't necessarily mean Marcus Mariota is going to go quietly, though. As we saw in the wild card game, the young gunslinger has flipped the quote-unquote playmaker switch, whether he's making big throws, catching his own passes, or throwing game-winning blocks. The third-year quarterback is doing everything in his power to keep Tennessee alive, but in the end, it will not be enough against the Patriots, whether Brady simply outguns them or Mariota makes a key mistake in the final minutes. New England will secure the W and book their trip to the AFC Championship game, but don't expect the Titans to make it easy, though. New England wins. Final score, 31-21. New England onward, upward, and onward yet again to the AFC Championship game. So nothing more to say. MF, are we going to make it unanimous, or are you calling yet another upset?
I will say this. Everybody who says that this is going to be a blowout maybe could be right. However, what was the one thing that Tennessee did that actually was effective? They ran the football on Kansas City. And if memory serves me right, what's the one Achilles heel that New England has? They can't really stop the run that well. They got dashed by Kansas City in the first game of the season, and they got blitzed. Then I want to remember who else did Tennessee when they lost to Carolina. That inexplicable loss. What was it? The running attack. They couldn't stop Cam Newton running. They couldn't stop Christian McCaffrey. Then with Miami, it was a blend. They blended it a little bit of run and a little bit of pass. But Kenyon Drake got his. He got over 100 yards that night. One major factor. Derrick Henry. If you saw what he did in Kansas City, he blitzed them for over 100 yards, especially in the fourth quarter. He went absolutely ballistic. New England, you got to stop him. You got to minimize that damage. You cannot let Tennessee get on long period drives and march it down the field, because if they do that, especially the way Brady's been playing lately, and I think the first game he really started looking like that 40-year-old guy was literally when they went up against the Miami Dolphins on that fateful night in Miami, that Monday Night Football game where they lost 27-20. Because even the games that he's been winning, he hasn't been that great. He's been throwing some interceptions. He's starting to make mistakes. He doesn't put up the 300 number yards. It's always been about 200, 250, 275. If Tennessee can get to Brady, get to that quarterback, get to the pressure, and make him make those mistakes like they did last week against Kansas City, then we might have not only just have an upset on our hands, we might have an absolute game changer on our hands. Because right now, every prognosticator, every person in the world has the Patriots penciled down to go to the Super Bowl. Granted, I do too. I got New England going to the Super Bowl as well. I'm calling it right now. So obviously I got the Patriots winning. But I would not be shocked if Tennessee makes this closer than what it expects. The spread is 13.5 to 14. I think this could be at least a 7 to 10 point game. Honestly. Because I must recognize the fact that Tennessee is a decent team, a very good team, and in some cases, very lucky to make it where they're at. But be it as it may, they're here. And they've made it this far. What happens on tomorrow night remains to be seen, but it will be a good matchup. But I got New England advancing and moving on to the AFC Championship game. Who do they play? We'll find out right now, because it's time to hit the Sunday slate, and that's our first matchup. So Florio, go.
And it's our matchup, MF. This is the one that we're going to be getting into. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun with this one. The Sunday slate of matchups starts off with the AFC side. Once again on CBS, WPRI 12. It will be the number 3 seed, the Jacksonville Jaguars, squaring off against the number 2 seed, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Heinz Field in Pittsburgh on CBS. Iron Eagle, Dan Fouts, Evan Washburn will have the call. Pittsburgh, 7 to 7.5 point favorites. Second postseason meeting all time. They met once before, and it's another game that MF and I remember very well. On a Saturday night in Pittsburgh, AFC wildcard game, the Jacksonville Jaguars went into Pittsburgh, and they stole one, 31-29, behind the efforts of their quarterback at the time, David Garrard. And man, what a show he put on that night. I remember that very vividly, as well as MF, because that was our game back then. And 10 years later, here we are again. Another Jacksonville-Pittsburgh matchup. And so here we go. After outlasting the Buffalo Bills last Sunday, the Jaguars drew an interesting divisional round matchup. They more than handled the Steelers in Week 5, intercepting Ben Roethlisberger 5 times in a 30-9 blowout win at Heinz Field. It was one of 9 games in which the Jaguars' entirely legitimate defense held an opponent to 10 or fewer points. Quarterback Blake Bortles, however, has regressed since an early and midseason surge, and his play poses a massive obstacle to advancing further. Promising playoff paths have crashed for the Steelers because of injuries to one or more of their big three: Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, and Le'Veon Bell. So all eyes will be on Brown, whom the Steelers are hoping can return after missing the final 3 regular season games with a calf injury. And like the Patriots, the Steelers were nearly unbeatable during the final 3 months of the season. They lost once, ironically, to the Patriots in the game of the year after October 8th. But their worst day of the season was undoubtedly that Week 5 blowout rout loss to the Jags. Bottom line, it's not easy to envision Bortles winning a road playoff game, but any team with a defense as sharp as the Jaguars unit has the chance to at least keep it close. The Steelers are and should be the favorites. Now, there is a chance that Jacksonville can do it. Week 5, Jacksonville destroyed the Steelers to the tune of a 30-9 shellacking. Jaguar defense picked off Ben Roethlisberger 5 times, a career worst, while not allowing a single touchdown. And although Blake Bortles had a subpar game, Leonard Fournette was a beast, totaling 184 yards and 2 TDs. Jacksonville is more than capable of doing similar damage in the playoffs, especially if Fournette can score a quick touchdown or two. I would imagine the Jags will come after Roethlisberger early and often. I wouldn't expect another 5-interception game, but a couple of key turnovers could be enough in this one. That's not to say Le'Veon Bell won't make plays. However, with Antonio Brown hobbled, the Steelers will have to rely on their younger, less explosive weapons to move the ball against Jacksonville's elite duo of cornerbacks. And that might not go as well as Pittsburgh will hope. There is a chance that for the Steelers, for the Jaguars to win, they need to force turnovers in a lot of them. And they also need the Steelers' offense to blow a couple plays. And if the Jags do those couple of things, the Jags can come away with a shocking upset. At the end of the day, though, Ben Roethlisberger in the postseason, that's almost always automatic. And I got a good feeling. I mean, yes, I'm worried about Antonio Brown, but I got a good feeling Le'Veon Bell could have a big game here. And I think some of those younger studs, like my man out of USC, Juju Smith-Schuster, maybe some Martavis Bryant, and some Jesse James. I can expect those young men to have some big games here. But nonetheless, I mean, I would not be surprised if Jacksonville beats them again. I wouldn't. But my gut's telling me to go with Pittsburgh, and I'm going to go with my gut on this one. I'm going to say the Pittsburgh Steelers will get their revenge. I say Pittsburgh will find a way to win. Close game, 21-16. I'm going with Pittsburgh to beat Jacksonville and set up that very appetizing AFC Championship game of Pittsburgh and New England. So that's all I can say about it. So MF, Phil Simms to my Jim Nance, come on in. This is our matchup here. You know, as I always say, do that thing I like. Hello, friends.
This is going to be, I think this could be the matchup of the weekend. This could be the matchup of the weekend. And plus, Pittsburgh was so embarrassed in that first game earlier in the year because of those turnovers over the mistakes. They are looking for blood. And this is going to be an absolute crazy game. And now it's gotten even bigger for Pittsburgh. Antonio Brown might play. Mike Tomlin just said, I think a few hours ago, that Antonio Brown is cleared to play, and he might play tomorrow night. If they get the full Steeler team back with Antonio Brown, ladies and gents, just pack up the headsets. It's done. I'm calling this. This will be the end of the Jaguar season. Pittsburgh will advance, no doubt. You got to run the football with Le'Veon Bell. Bell is going to be your lead guy. Then from there, you got to get on Antonio Brown. You got to get Bryant. You got to get those guys going. Defensively, they are still kind of trying to figure their way through, trying to figure, linebacking core, receiving core, because they got torched in the first game. They got to really play better. Defensively, that's going to be the key for Pittsburgh. Let's talk about Jacksonville and what they did. Offensively, if you saw that game last week against the Buffalo Bills, offensively, Jacksonville was horrible. I mean, I'm just going to say it straight out. I don't even know how on earth they won that game. That's how bad this team was last week. The reason why they won it was because the defense saved their rear ends. Because offensively, man, they played as bad could be, man. You know what? I didn't want to say this because I don't want to sound insensitive, but was that the Jacksonville Jaguar offense on the line? Because because I thought they went into the time loop and pulled out the 0-16 Detroit Lions or the 0-16 Cleveland Brown offense. It was that bad. What I saw last week. So I don't know what that was. They better not do that against Pittsburgh, because if they do that against Pittsburgh, Anthony, I'm telling you right now, you better have some extra material or something, because we might not be talking about this game. We're going to be probably covering some other stuff, because this is going to be a blowout. I'm calling it. So Pittsburgh wins. They move on. Bullet, go.
Yeah, I mean, I watched that game last week with Buffalo and Jacksonville, and that Jacksonville offense was horrible. It was, I mean, I almost wanted to cover my eyes at times, but like you said, Jacksonville's defense pretty much saved them. And if Blake Bortles has another game like this game may turn out to be a blowout. And for the Jacksonville defense to have a chance, I mean, for the Jaguars to have a chance, that defense really needs to get Ben Roethlisberger early and often. They need to put pressure on Le'Veon Bell, and their secondary needs to do a really good job of covering their receivers, whether it is Antonio Brown, whether it is Juju Smith-Schuster, whether it is Martavis Bryant. I mean, that's what they got to do if they have any shot. And yeah, I got Pittsburgh winning as well, but I would not be surprised if Pittsburgh wins in a blowout. So there's really nothing more for me to say. So Florio, let's move on to the final game of divisional playoff weekend.
From the NFC, and it will be on Fox. A kickoff of 4:40. You'll feature the number 4 seed, the New Orleans Saints, squaring off against the number 2 seed, the Minnesota Vikings, from the home of Super Bowl 52, US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Aaron Andrews, Chris Myers, they'll all be there. The Vikings, 4 to 5 point favorites. Fourth postseason meeting between these two. They met 3 times before, and the Minnesota Vikings with a 2-1 advantage. Their first meeting was in 1987 in an NFC first round playoff game, and the Minnesota Vikings went into the Superdome and absolutely pounded the Saints to a pulp, 44-10. Second time they met in the year 2000, meeting in an NFC divisional playoff at the old Metrodome in Minnesota. The Vikings won that one as well, 34-16. And their most recent postseason meeting, one of the greatest NFC championship games of all time, 2009, at the Superdome in New Orleans, where the New Orleans Saints defeated the Minnesota Vikings 31-28 in overtime in one of the all-time great NFC title games in history. So all the schematics are, I believe, have been covered. So MF, we kick it off with you. The New Orleans Saints went into they had a tough game with Carolina, but they beat the Panthers for the third time this season, unprecedented, 31-26. They get a second chance at Minnesota. You remember week 1, that Monday night. It was Minnesota who came away with the win. So MF, can Minnesota make it 2 for 2? Or can New Orleans go into Minnesota and steal one and ruin what could be the best chance to see a home team playing the Super Bowl in their own backyard?
Well, I'm just gonna say this, Anthony. Sorry. This is gonna be an interesting matchup as well because you got Minnesota coming off of a great season. They got the bye week, and Case Keenum is the guy. Decent running game. Latavius Murray was very good this season, coming from Oakland to Minnesota after they got rid of Adrian Peterson, and it looked like that turned out to be a good move on their part. And with everything going on, defensively, they're stout. They're loaded. They look great. They got Stephon Diggs. They got Kyle Rudolph. This team looks poised to make a Super Bowl run. And that is very interesting. But you got a New Orleans Saints team that's been to the dance before, that's won it all once in their history with Sean Payton and with Drew Brees, but they got a dangerous team. And what was the factor? Why did they win that Super Bowl a few years ago? Because they had a running game. They had receivers and a defense that actually was good. Guys, New Orleans looks like the Super Bowl 44 team again. A top 10 defense that is getting to the quarterback, gets pressure, makes mistakes. They get to, they light you up, and they do everything about that. They got an explosive offensive line that's been covering Drew Brees throughout the season. You got two-headed monsters where you got Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara. And you got Michael Thomas and that receiving core that's looking really good, really great. Ted Ginn came out with a big play last week as well. This is without a doubt. In the AFC side, the game of the week will most likely be Jacksonville and Pittsburgh. For the NFC, this is the game of the week on their end. This is so close, so tight, and I think it's going to be even better than their Monday Night Football battle because New Orleans was not – that was a shell of themselves. Where the Vikings looked really good and they were really strong, but if you remember, New Orleans just didn't have that right chemistry yet, and you could tell they weren't together. Not as fluent, not as strong, not as better as they are now. I'm going to go with Minnesota, but I think this could go to overtime. I think this is going to go OT. 27-21, the Vikings advance over the New Orleans Saints. Michael Bullock, I give it to you.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me to call here. I mean, I do agree this is going to be better than their first meeting. I mean, the Vikings have looked good defensively this season, and Case Keenum's going to be making his first postseason start, and he's had a really good season, but can he do it in the postseason? That, to me, is going to be the key. And the Saints, I mean, like you said, they're basically looking like that team that went to the Super Bowl and won it. So, Breeze is his, and you got that two-headed monster of Alvin Kamara and King Thomas at receiver. Oh, let's not. Here's how I feel. If it's a high-scoring game, give the edge to the Saints. If it's scoring, give the edge to Minnesota. You know what? Right here. I New Orleans Saints going into Minnesota. Final score, New Orleans 30-27 to advance to the NFC Championship game. So, Florio, it's all on you. Who do you agree with?
I'll tell you that in a minute. But let me get into my thoughts on this. After an 0-2 start, the Saints have put together their best team since winning Super Bowl 44 in 2009. That was also the year they defeated the Vikings in the NFC Championship, the game that prompted the NFL's infamous Bountygate investigation. We'll see just how much the Saints have changed since their Week 1 loss to the Vikings at US Bank Stadium in the first Monday Night Football game of the season, and whether they can establish a ball control running attack against Minnesota's top-rated defense. Minnesota had the NFL's best defense this season, whether you measure by points allowed per game, which was 15.8, yards, 275.9, or third down percentage, 25.2. 12 of the Vikings' 16 opponents managed less than 20 points. Well-rounded and healthy, the unit is poised to control the NFC playoffs. From a team perspective, perhaps the biggest question is whether quarterback Case Keenum can continue his charm play. He finished the season ranked second in total QBR, 69.7, after 5 seasons as a backup. Sunday will mark his first playoff appearance. And I want to tell you folks something. Our good friend Lindsay McCormick had a premonition, if you will. She said that Case Keenum was going to be an elite quarterback this year. So far, so good. Lindsay McCormick was spot on. But the bottom line is, all you need to know about the team's Week 1 matchup is that Sam Bradford threw for 346 yards and 3 touchdowns in the Vikings' 29-19 win. Both teams have undergone significant changes since then. And like MF said, this matchup could be the best game of the 2017 playoffs so far. It's time the Minnesota Vikings turn all the doubters into believers. There's been a lot of talk about a lack of success for teams whose stadiums are hosting the Super Bowl. Well, the Vikings aren't going to let history dictate whether or not they make the NFC Championship game. In Week 1, the Vikings toppled the Saints 29-19. Although a lot has changed with both teams since then, I believe Minnesota learned more than enough during that game to perform an encore performance during this divisional round. Do they have the defense to slow down the Saints? Absolutely. I know Drew Brees is on fire right now, but he'll be squaring off with the number 1 defense in the NFL. The talent of Xavier Rhodes, Harrison Smith, and Trey Wayne should have no trouble keeping the New Orleans receivers at bay. On top of that, the NFL's number 2 run defense will corral Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram just like the Carolina Panthers did. What about the offense outscoring Brees and company? It's debatable, but Case Keenum hasn't come back down to earth yet, and it has 2 excellent receivers to rely on. I would also expect Latavius Murray and Jerick McKinnon to do plenty of damage on the ground as well. What I'm trying to say is the Vikings have the edge and will use it to secure the win on Sunday. It won't be a cakewalk by any means, but they have the talent, coaching, and home field advantage needed to move on to the NFC Championship game. So I'm sorry, Bullock, I disagree with you. I agree with MF. I got the Minnesota Vikings winning this one as well. My final score, 27-20, Minnesota over New Orleans to advance to the NFC Championship game. So with all that being said, it is now time for our first NHL Power Rankings of this season. man alive. I mean, here we are, NHL season already, power rankings time, and well, I know Bullock's not ready. I'm not ready. I'm hoping MF is. So I'm gonna see if MF can get us started in the right direction when it comes to the power rankings of the NHL. But I'll tell you one thing: my number one team is an absolute no-brainer. That's all I can say.
Actually, my number one and my number two are no-brainers. I got my number one and number two in the power rankings are such no-brainers. I got no arguments, no qualms whatsoever. Yeah, I definitely I got this. I got it. I'm ready. I can jump right now. All right, I guess I am jumping in. All right.
Okay, go ahead.
You didn't give me the cue. I didn't get no cue there. All right, so I guess I am leading it off. I got to do it. I'm gonna lead it off and say my number 10. Well, this is a team that's always in the power rankings every season, and we talk about this team year in and year out of being a really strong team, a really good team. And so far, they've hit a little bit of a rough patch lately. You know, they've hit on some hard times. Actually, as a matter of fact, right now they're in the wild card position in the Western Conference right now. My number 10, the Chicago Blackhawks, 22 wins, 16 losses, 6 overtime or shootout losses. I don't know how they distinguish that, but that's NHL for you folks. 5-4-1 in the last 10 games. They did win though. They won actually this evening over the Winnipeg Jets, 2-1. And you know, I'm gonna say it. You would think that Chicago would be right near the top of the division, you know, in the top of the Central, and they're not. And that really, I don't want to say it perplexes me, but it's kind of like, wow, you really would have thought Chicago would be a lot more better. You know, when you got Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves, you got Joe Quenneville, the coach, and all these great guys. And right now, they're literally tied with the wild card, the final wild card spot with the Minnesota Wild. Like they're neck and neck right now, and because of that win, they got the one extra game. It's a little bit shocking because you would think, man, what's going on? Why is this happening? Well, maybe it's just some bad juju going around. You never know. But one thing is for sure, keep a close eye on them later in the season because right now, even though they're struggling, I think they're going to turn it around. And when they do, look out. That might be danger. But if they flip that switch and they become the Blackhawks of old, look out below. And that's going to be some bad news for the rest of the NHL, especially in the West, because once Chicago gets going, it's almost impossible to stop them. You know how that goes, Anthony. We've seen it many times with Chicago. If they make that big run and if they flip that switch, sometimes we're talking about them not only making the playoffs, we're talking about them possibly making Stanley Cup final or even winning it all and capturing Lord Stanley. They've done it. We've seen it. So right now, my number 10, the Chicago Blackhawks. Michael Bullock, it's yours.
Yeah, I agree. I got to go with Fletch in this one. The Chicago Blackhawks, they're my number 10 as well. So he pretty much touched on everything on him. So the Chicago Blackhawks are my number 10. So yeah, let's move on to Florio with his number 10.
Yeah, I'll make it unanimous. Chicago Blackhawks 5-4-1 the last 10. I mean, yeah, they're not where we expected them to be. You would think they would be on the top of that division, but it is so hard to believe that this team is actually looking up to the Winnipeg Jets of all teams, if you can believe it. But we'll get to them shortly because you know they're in it. So far in this calendar year, they're 4-2. They put a whooping on our Rangers in Madison Square Garden. They lost to the Vegas Golden Knights. Home win against the Edmonton Oilers. They routed the Ottawa Senators on Tuesday 8-2. Lost to the Wild at home 2-1, and then that big win against the Jets tonight. That's what got them in there in the first place. Sunday, we get that NHL and NBC Sunday afternoon game that MF and I love so much. A rivalry renewed against the Detroit Red Wings at home. And then they're going to be off all the way until next Saturday when they're going to be hosting the New York Islanders. And then the Tampa Bay Lightning come in. That'll conjure up some memories of 2015 when they met in the Stanley Cup Finals. Wednesday the 24th, they'll be hosting the Toronto Maple Leafs. And then they'll be going to Detroit at Little Caesars Arena against the Red Wings. And then that'll take them to the All-Star break. So All-Star game, just to let you folks know, will be on Sunday, January the 28th. Of course, the night before on the 27th. My personal favorite event, the skills competition. You know, I'm looking forward to that as always. So, but that's the story with the Chicago Blackhawks. 50 points and the 5-4-1 in the last 10. So, yep, I think MF got this one right. Chicago Blackhawks, maybe slow now, but I got a feeling they're going to be turning on the burners soon enough because you know what this team's capable of. We all know what they're capable of. So let's get that out of the way. So Minnesota's in there. So Chicago, I should say, is in there. So now let's move on to my number 9 and a team that's in the same boat. But I think they're just a smidgen better. I'm going to go with the Minnesota Wild. 23-17-4. They're 5-4-1 in their last 10 games as well. And, you know, they're tied with Chicago. They got 50 points apiece, and they're getting their core players back at the right time. And they're 3-2 so far in this calendar year. Wins over Florida and Buffalo. They got beat down in Colorado 7-2. Tough loss to Calgary on Tuesday. That big win in Chicago Wednesday night. And they got a big game tomorrow night when they host the Winnipeg Jets. Winnipeg Jets coming in tomorrow night, and then they go to and then they got Vancouver coming in on Sunday, and then they're going to be off until Saturday when they host the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Ottawa Senators coming in, and then they close the All-Star break against the Stanley Cup champion Penguins, who, believe it or not, are not even in my power rankings this time around. Go figure. You would think Pittsburgh would have been in there, but no. I do not have them in there. So that pretty much is the story here. So I think I pretty much covered everything on Minnesota. They're getting their core players back at the right time. I think they just had Parisi come back, and so we'll see what happens with them. So right now I'm going to say the Minnesota Wild are my number 9. So keep in mind our first rankings are never easy, and like I said, for me, 2 through 10 were a chore for me. I mean, my number 1 was a clear no-brainer. 2 through 10, not so much. So, but we'll progress as we get along. So Minnesota is my number 9. MF, I don't know if you agree with that. If you don't, fine. But first rankings are always the toughest.
No, they are always tough, but you know, Anthony, you absolutely are right. Minnesota deserves to be here because they do have identical points. They actually got one more win, but they do have one extra loss and 2 extra OT slash 2 OT losses. I don't know. Again, that OT thing is just going to eat me alive. I swear to you, it's going to drive me up the wall, but whatever. But they have identical records, so, I mean, it's almost identical. I can't argue it with anything that you have put in on the ranking, so no, I'll give you what it's worth. You are correct. My number 9 is, I'll agree with you. My number 9 is the Minnesota Wild, so yeah. Go ahead, Mike Bullock, it's yours.
Yeah, the Minnesota Wild, they are my number 9 as well. So, yeah, I mean, you guys pretty much touched on everything. So let's move right along to number 8, and Fletch starts us off.
You know what? Normally, I like to. This time around, I gotta go, and I'm gonna run into the Eastern Conference. I want to get away from the West for the moment. I say for the moment. I'm gonna get out of the West. I'm going into the East, and I'm gonna dip my toe into the Great White North. That's right. I'm calling it. Welcome to the power rankings. The Toronto Maple Leafs, man. Austin Matthews and them boys, James Van Riemsdyk and them boys with Frederick Anderson, aka Harold Bluetooth. That's a little nod to my boy Johnny Superb Man on YouTube.com. This team is then unbelievable. I did not think Toronto was going to be this good, and they have. They are 25-17-3. They got 53 points, which currently gets them the number 3 spot. And here's the thing: if you want to talk about one-sided, you got to look at that Atlantic Division, because right now Tampa, Boston, and Toronto are your top 3. The 4th place team is literally 11 points behind. Barring a major catastrophe, Tampa, Boston, and Toronto are going to be in the playoffs, because right now you got Tampa leading the way at 65 points. Oh, by the way, spoiler alert, they're in the top 5. Boston, 53 points. They're in the rankings. You're going to see their name come up tonight. And Toronto, right now, I mean, it's unbelievable what is going on. And in the Atlantic Division, the most saddest thing is they're the only 3 teams that have winning records. Everybody else has got either below 500 or near 500, and that is so shocking. But there's no parity in that division, where in the Metropolitan Division, my division, Anthony's division, oh my God. Any one of the teams in the Metropolitan Division could have made this power rankings, because all of them has winning records. I don't think there's one team that's below 500. And I think, Anthony, you talked about that the other day, that there's no team below.
Every team is 500 or better.
Yeah, so we easily could have put every team in the Metropolitan Division in the power rankings. I'm not gonna, but all the teams could easily get in. But for me, my number, I guess this is number 8, this is number 8. I gotta say Toronto Maple Leafs. So, Mike Bullock, I give it to you.
Who did you say was number 8?
Toronto.
All right. I just wanted to make sure. Yeah. The Toronto Maple Leafs, I mean, I do agree. They're my number 8 as well. So, yeah, Fletch pretty much touched on everything. So, let's move on to Florio's number 8.
Yeah, it's Toronto. The only downside is they're 4-4-2 in the last 10. But remember, first power rankings, we're not going to, get too heavily into that. But they're 2-3 so far in the calendar year. They lost to Tampa Bay, and then they won 2 in a row at home against San Jose and Vancouver. Well, all these games have been at home, actually. They lost to Tampa, they beat San Jose, they beat Vancouver. But this week they lost to Columbus and Ottawa. And they're not playing again until Tuesday night, when they close out this long homestand with a visit from the St. Louis Blues. And then they go on a 2-game road trip in Philadelphia and Ottawa, come back home to host Colorado, and then they close out the pre-All-Star break with trips to Chicago and Dallas. So, yeah, I mean, MF made a lot of great points. I mean, Austin Matthews has been incredible. I mean, he's gonna be a superstar for years to come. He reminds me a lot of Connor McDavid in Edmonton. I mean, those are 2 young men who are the future of the game, no question about that. And Freddie Anderson has been solid. He had a big game the other night. So, yeah, he pretty much made all the points for me. So, Toronto Maple Leafs, yes. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt there, MF. Toronto, going to put them in there as number 8. Move on to number 7, and I'm going to go with a team that that's. I think I'm going to pull out another similar feat here as far as similar ones go. Now this is where it gets tough. I'll be honest with you, but I think I got a good grasp on this one. It's between LA and Columbus. If I'm going to be real honest with you, but they're similar in terms of the numbers and the whole 9 yards. But actually, I think I am going to go with LA. LA Kings. I'm going to go with the LA Kings as my number 7. I mean, they're 24-13-5. They're 4-4-2 in their last 10 as well. But they have lost 2 in a row. But I've just been very. I mean, they got off to such a very hot start, but they have come back down to earth since. I mean, they're 1-2 so far in this calendar year. They opened up the year with a big win in Edmonton, but then losses at Calgary and home to Nashville. They haven't played since last Saturday, but they play tomorrow night. They host Anaheim. They have a 3-game homestand with Anaheim coming in tomorrow. Monday night, they got San Jose coming in. And then Thursday, they got the Stanley Cup champs coming in Pittsburgh. That should be a good one. And then they go to Anaheim next Friday night. And then on the 21st, MF and I, we still have that blood revenge on our mind because that's when the New York Rangers come in. Don't think we haven't forgotten about 2014. We haven't, especially me. And then the 23rd and the 24th, they go to Vancouver and Calgary. And that's it for the All-Star break. And our next power rankings for the NHL will be in 2 weeks on the 26th. Or actually, I don't think they will be, but we'll see. But LA, I know they've been struggling right now, but the body of work, I think they deserve to be there. I mean, Jonathan Quick leads the league in goals against average, and the penalty kill has been tremendous. I mean, they lead the league in the penalty kill. I mean, that's another reason you got to put them in. The other areas need work: goals scoring, power play, penalty minutes, but penalty kill and goals against, that's those are the top 2 factors for LA, in my opinion. So, and they're looking up at the Vegas Golden Knights. How awesome is that? So that's all I can say on that. LA Kings are number 7. So, MF, how does that strike you?
No, that's fine with me. I got no arguments there. LA Kings definitely number 7. You definitely brought everything to the table that I really thought it was going to be. And yeah, I was feeling the same way. I was on the fence between them and Columbus as well, but you made the decision for me, so I'm happy with that. My number 7 is the LA Kings. Michael Bullock, do you agree? Bullock?
We didn't lose them, did we? I guess we did.
All right, I guess we did. Well, my number 6, Anthony, actually, you did touch on it. I was going to give it to Columbus. Look, they've done very well, so I'm not going to argue with that either. So Columbus is number 6, so it's up to you.
Okay. Yeah, Columbus Blue Jackets. I mean, it was tough, but I just feel Columbus, I mean, yeah, they have some areas that they need work on, but I just think that, they got the same amount of points. I mean, the similar, but they're 3-3 in the calendar year. I mean, they won in Dallas, lost in Colorado, home win against Florida, big road win in Toronto Monday night, but the last couple of nights have not gone so well. They lost at Buffalo, and then they got beat down at home by Vancouver tonight. So I might have had to rethink that one. I think I probably might have. I probably should have. I think we probably should have switched L.A. and Buffalo. I mean L.A. and Columbus here, but nonetheless,
Hey, did I miss my turn?
yeah, there you are, Bullock. We had um, we had the L.A. Kings at number 7, and we're on number 6 now with the Columbus Blue Jackets. But let me get into the schedule real quick. Um, Columbus, after tonight, they're not playing again until Thursday. They're going when they host the Dallas Stars, and then Tuesday the 23rd, they're going to Vegas to take on the toast of the league, the Vegas Golden Knights, and we're going to have a lot of positive things to say about them, especially me. And then the Arizona Coyotes, they close out with Arizona in Arizona before the All-Star break. So yeah, solid team this year. So I like what I've seen, even though they've been struggling lately. I think you know what, guys? I think we might need to do a little endeavment here. I think we should have Columbus down at 7 and move LA to 6. That's how I think. That's how I think it should go. So,
Fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, yeah, because looking at the numbers, I think LA should be.
Yeah, I agree as well.
Okay, so Columbus is now number 7 and LA is now number 6. So let's go to number 5 now. And MF, what do you got?
All right, now this is where it's going to get very tricky because there's some powerhouses now. When we're talking about the top 5, all these teams from here on in, Anthony, are first place teams, including one second place team that's really deserving of being near the top. And I this is why I said the top 2 were easy for me. My number 5, and I'm going to call it, comes from the Atlantic Division actually, no, I stand corrected. It's the Metropolitan Division, and it's the Washington Capitals. 28 wins, 14 losses, 3 overtime losses, 6-2-2 in the last 10 games, including a win that was, I guess you could say, yesterday. They beat the Carolina Hurricanes 4-3, and I'm gonna say it, man. Washington is that team that I don't know what it is. They're really good. They're really strong, and and the thing is that they're good during the regular season, but for some odd reason, when you get into the postseason, that's when everything goes wrong for them. But we'll wait and see what happens. But right now, they're looking great. They're looking really strong. I got nothing more to say. So, Michael Bullock, I give it to you. Number 5 is the Washington Capitals.
Yeah, I got the Washington Capitals at number 5 as well. I mean, you made some valid points there. So, Florio, I give it to you.
Thank you. Unanimous. It's Washington. Washington Capitals, 6-2-2 in the last 10, 28-14-3, second best record in the Eastern Conference. I mean, 4-1 in the calendar year. They win in Carolina at the start of the year, and then a big home win against St. Louis, another home win against Vancouver, a home loss to Carolina Thursday, but they got their payback tonight in Carolina in a home and home. They're off until Thursday as well, and they're going to be going up against one of the surprise teams of this season, and an honorable mention of a team, the New Jersey Devils. I mean, they've come out of nowhere this year. And then on the next Friday, they go up against one of the more disappointing teams of the league this year, the Montreal Canadiens, who I expected a lot from this year, but boy, have they made me look stupid. And then they have the NHL on NBC Sunday afternoon slot on the 21st when they host the Philadelphia Flyers. And then they close out the All-Star break on Thursday the 25th when they go to Florida against the Panthers. So, and this team started out a little bit slow, but they've gotten their mojo back. They're looking like that dominant team yet again, and they lead the Metropolitan Division by 6 points over Columbus, and that's really, I mean, and you look at the Metropolitan Division standings, every team has a 500 or better record, even the last place team. If that doesn't prove that we have the best division in the game, I don't know what is. So that's all I can say on that. And Coach Barry Trotz of the Washington Capitals, he will be the head coach of the Metropolitan Division All-Star team in the upcoming All-Star game in a couple of weeks. So hopefully he can lead our division to victory for the second year in a row. So that's all I say there. So Washington Capitals, they come in at number 5. So now we move on to number 4. And like MF said, we got powerhouses among powerhouses. And oh boy, let's see. There are some teams that, I do have some honorable mentions. Colorado Avalanche, 7-2-1. They won 5 in a row. They definitely should be at least in the conversation. Okay. It gets dicey here, but and another honorable mention. You might want to. Actually, no. I think we're good here. So I think I might have a tie here at number. Where are we? 4. 4. So yeah, 1 and 2, no brainers for me. 3 and 4 is where it's going to get a little bit dicey. I was going to say the St. Louis Blues, but I have not liked what I've seen from them lately. 4-5-1. They've lost 3 in a row. Nashville, 4-4-2. They've won 2 in a row. So there is a team that I think fully deserves to be. I'm going to have to make a tie here because there's a team that has been so white hot right now that I think they deserve to be in these rankings. Yeah. So number 4, I will go with a team that I strongly feel deserves to be in these rankings. I'm going to go with the Calgary Flames. I mean, 7-2-1, 6 in a row. I mean, how they don't deserve to be in these rankings is beyond me. The reason why Colorado's not in it is because they're a last place team. Calgary is a third place team, and they're a playoff team right now. So I honestly feel that they should be in these rankings without question. And I'll tell you right now, there's probably going to be some disagreements here, but I just feel with the way the standings are, and also a little bit of some last 10 factored in, and recent body of work, I have to do that. So this is why I am the Barry Melrose of the group, and also why I'm the Enzo to MF's Doc Emrick. But Calgary has just been so hot right now. They haven't lost a game in this calendar year. They beat LA, they beat Anaheim, and then road wins in Minnesota, Tampa Bay, and Florida. They play Sunday at Carolina, and then Saturday they host Winnipeg, and then Buffalo comes in, LA comes in, closes out at Edmonton, and they'll get into the All-Star break. I mean, one of the hottest teams right now. I mean, 7-2-1, 6 in a row. I mean, yeah, the areas need work, but who cares? I mean, they just keep winning and winning and winning, and I strongly feel they deserve to be in these rankings with their body of work. So Calgary Flames, for me, I'm going to put them in as my number 4. So MF, any arguments with that?
Well, the way I see it, it goes like this. I do disagree because, but wait, hear me out. I have them higher. They deserve to be higher. They deserve to be in the top 3. So I think I know where you were going with it, and I kind of understood why you did it, because I think I know where the tie was. I think I know what the tie is. The Tampa Bay Lightning and the Winnipeg Jets.
Yes.
I think that was going to be your tie.
I got caught in the numbers.
No, No, and the thing is, fair enough. And the thing is, you're absolutely right. For me, this was the tie, and I knew this was probably how you were gonna go, and I wasn't gonna rip you for that. So you would be right to go with the tie, but obviously the top 3 is a shoo-in. Calgary is definitely number 3, and I'm gonna tip that hand right now. So you already now know who my 4 is. You now know my 3. So I'm not gonna give anything more than that. But number 4 is the tie. Tampa Bay and Winnipeg is my number 4, and my number 3 is the Calgary Flames. So Michael Bullock, I give it to you.
Yeah, Tampa Bay and what'd you say was it? What's your other tie?
Winnipeg.
Winnipeg.
Oh, Winnipeg. Yeah, I was just making sure. Yeah, Tampa Bay and Winnipeg are tied number 4, and Calgary is my number 3. So I totally agree with that. So let's just move right along.
Yep. I fell into the trap, and I'm glad MF cleared it up. Calgary should be in the top 3. You're absolutely right. I must have misread something there. So I agree with that. Tampa Bay Lightning and the Winnipeg Jets, that was my tie. Absolutely spot on. I mean, Tampa Bay, best record in the league right now, 31-10-3, 6-3-1 in the last 10. Lost their last game, but they got the best record in the East. They got the best record in the league. They lead the league in goals scoring. They're 4th in goals allowed. They're 4th in power play percentage. Their weakness, though, is penalty kill. They're 24th in that. But that's pretty much the only weakness this team has right now. The bully hockey is back. 3-3 in the calendar year. They won in Toronto, lost in Montreal and Ottawa, and then wins at Detroit and at home against Carolina. But then Calgary beat them last night. I didn't take that into consideration, so that's why Calgary should go ahead of Tampa right now. They're off until Thursday, but oh boy, they got the Vegas Golden Knights coming in. Maybe a Stanley Cup final preview. We'll find out. Then they go to Minnesota on the 20th, at Chicago on the 22nd. We talked about that. At Nashville on the 23rd, and then at Philadelphia on the 25th. That will close them out to the All-Star break. So right now, if I'm going to be real honest, if MF was putting his Doc Emmerich hat on and was, asking me like the Eddie Olczyk, or if he was putting on the Gary Thorne hat and my Bill Clement hat, he was like, all right, Anthony, who do you think is the best team in the East right now? It's hands down the Tampa Bay Lightning. Well, maybe not as hands down, because there's another team within that division that I think could be a major threat to them with the way they've been playing lately. So Tampa Bay, I think talent-wise, I think Tampa Bay is the most complete team in the East, and I think that they are currently my odds-on favorites to represent the East in the Stanley Cup Finals this year. Unless that team that team that's just beneath them in that Atlantic Division, keeps playing the way they've been playing lately. And oh my goodness, have they been unbelievable. We'll get to them in a minute. Winnipeg Jets. Guys, Winnipeg. Are you kidding me? They lead the Central Division and have the second best record in the Western Conference? If you would have told me, I think if I had told Fletch, if I had told MF, as the Bill Clement to his Gary Thorne or the Enzo to his Doc Emmerich, if I had told him that the Vegas Golden Knights and the Winnipeg Jets were going to be the 2 best teams in the Western Conference, he would have been like, you sure you're the Barry Melrose of our group? But man alive, Winnipeg, 26, 12-7, 59 points, 6-2-2 in their last 10. They lost their last game, which was tonight against the Chicago Blackhawks. They're second in goal scoring. They're second in power play percentage. Goals against respectable at 13th. Penalty kill at 16. But man, has this team been unbelievable this year. 3-2 in the calendar year. They lost to Colorado, and then they had wins at home against Buffalo and San Jose, and then another win at Buffalo. But then that tough loss to Chicago tonight. They're at Minnesota tomorrow. at Calgary Saturday the 20th. They host Vancouver on the 21st, at San Jose the 23rd, and they close out the All-Star break at Anaheim on the 25th. I mean, what a surprise this team has been. I mean, I cannot believe how good this team has been. Unreal. And they proved, we'll get more into them as the season progresses, but Tampa Bay Lightning and the Winnipeg Jets are number 4. And we talked about the Calgary Flames at number 3. We agreed on that. I already got into Calgary. So let's get into the top 2. No-brainer here. My number 2, Michael Bullock, I think you're going to be very happy with this. It's your Boston Bruins at number 2. 8-0-2 in their last 10. They're unbeaten in their last 10 games, even though they did lose, but I think that was an overtime shootout loss. They're second in goals against. That is very good. They're 9th in power play and penalty kill. 10th in goal. They're 10th in goals scoring. I mean, they won. They won at the Islanders 5-1. They were supposed to play the Florida Panthers on the 4th, but that was the day of the big blizzard here in New England. They got snowed out. We don't know when that game will be made up. Last Saturday, a 7-1 beatdown of the Carolina Hurricanes, but then a very tough 6-5 loss to the Stanley Cup champion Penguins in Pittsburgh. They haven't played since then. They've been off all week, but they are back to work tomorrow night, and we get to renew the greatest rivalry in NHL history when they go to Montreal against the Canadiens. Always fun when they get together. And then a Martin Luther King Day matinee at home against the Dallas Stars. And then the Canadiens come back. They're going to be seeing Montreal a lot. They're going to be seeing them 3 times over the next week. They're at Montreal tomorrow. And then Montreal comes in on the 17th. And then they go to the Islanders on the 18th. And then they're at Montreal for a second consecutive Saturday. And then they host New Jersey. And then they close out the All-Star break against Ottawa. I mean, this team started slow, but they went on such an amazing roll. I mean, beating people left and right. Tuukka Rask has been playing out of his mind lately. I mean, that's what's been doing it for me. I mean, Tuukka has been absolutely impressive. I mean, he's been standing on his head, and that's why they're second in goals allowed. I mean, just amazing. He's definitely, if he keeps playing like this, he's going to definitely be a Vezina contender without question. And remember, just a short time ago, I said there was a major threat to Tampa Bay in the East. This is that major threat. Well, the Washington Capitals are my other threat, but I think if any team can challenge Tampa Bay in the East right now as far as who can represent the East in the Stanley Cup Finals, I think the Boston Bruins have what it takes to be that team. If Tuukka keeps doing what he's doing, there's no question we could see this team in the finals for the first time in 5 years. And if that happens, oh boy, who knows? We could have an even bigger celebration than we did 5 years ago on this show, which still remains the greatest show in history. So, yeah, June 7th, 2013. Look it up. Greatest show ever. That's on Derek's channel, by the way. So that was back when he was running it. So nothing more to say here. Number 2, Boston Bruins. Tampa Bay, watch out. You don't want to see this team in the playoffs. If you see them in the playoffs in the best of 7, I think they can take you. What do you say to that, MF, or Doc, as I call you?
Say this. I don't know if we're going to see them. I mean, they're really good. Boston is really strong this year, and I can't disagree with that at all. But to them getting it, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, that's a long haul, and the Stanley Cup Finals, or to get through the Stanley Cup playoff, is really, really, really tough. I mean, you need a lot of things to go right in order to get it. So we'll wait and see what happens. It's going to be a lot of fun, no doubt about it. But it is, without a doubt, we'll say it once, we'll say it again. It is the toughest trophy to win. But if they do get there, well, we'll see. Good luck. Boston is definitely number 2. No doubt about that. And Michael Bullock, I give it to you.
Who was number 2?
We said Boston.
Oh yeah, the Boston Bruins. Yeah, they're my number 2 as well. So let's move right along to number 1.
All right, guys.
Number 1? Who is that number 1, Michael Fletcher? Boy, oh howdy, I cannot wait for this.
This team is, when this team was assembled, a lot of people were kind of snickering, saying, well, it is one of those teams that, probably will be a bottom feeder. Nobody's going to take them credible. But let me tell you, for an inaugural season, to be your first year as a franchise and to do this is beyond remarkable. It's a Cinderella story, and we've jumped on that bandwagon, and not only have we taken notice, we have tipped our caps and respected this team throughout the year, and they have continued to impress us game in and game out. The number 1 seed in the West, they're 5 points away from the President's Trophy itself. 29, 10, and 2. 9-1 in the last 10 games. Winners of 2 in a row, including a defeat and knocking off of our New York Rangers. Anthony, I know that still stings. We can't believe that happened, but it did. The Vegas Golden Knights are number 1 in our power rankings, the inaugural power rankings of the season. And, all right, they've had so much injuries in the goalies. They've had Malcolm Subban. They've had Marc-Andre Fleury. They've had like 4 or 5 different goalies that they've had, but they still are consistent. James Neal is without a doubt he is the heart and soul of that team right now. He's been killing it lately, and rightfully so. I believe James Neal is on the All-Star team. I think he got in as the All-Star representative. I mean, okay, the stats, and I'm just gonna go stats alone right now. Jonathan Matheson, 40 points already. William Karlsson, 36 points, 22 goals, 14 assists. Riley Smith, 35 points, 24 assists, 11 goals. James Neal, the real deal, James Neal as I like to call him, 18 goals, 11 assists, 29 points. Eric Huka, 15 goals, 13 assists, 28 points. It's unbelievable what they've done. And then the goaltenders, Marc-Andre Fleury, 9-2 with a 1.73 goals against average. Malcolm Subban, 11-2, 2.38 goals against average, and a 9.18 save percentage. Marc-Andre Fleury has a 9.45 goals save percentage. 2 shutouts already in the season. Guys, is there anything more I need to say about how incredible this team is? Michael Bullock, it's all yours, my friend.
Yeah, I still couldn't believe that. The Vegas Golden Knights are number 1. I mean, I still can't believe it. I mean, Fletch pretty much touched on everything. Florio, it's yours.
They have become the toast of the league, and you know me. You guys, MF and Bullock. I mean, you guys know more than anybody how much I love a good underdog Cinderella story, because I consider myself an underdog in life. But this team has proven that this underdog has a lot of bite. And oh boy, have they bitten, man. Unbelievable. Vegas Golden Knights. This was beyond easy. I mean, how can you not have them as number one? I mean, MF gave you everything. 9-1 in the last 10. They won 2 in a row. 29-10-2, best record in the West. 1 point ahead of Winnipeg. If you were to tell me that the Vegas Golden Knights and the Winnipeg Jets would have the 2 best records in the West, I would have called you all crazy. But so far, so good. They've got it. I mean, you would think with powerhouses like the Los Angeles Kings and Chicago Blackhawks and the Nashville Predators and the St. Louis Blues, you would think it would be business as usual. No. Maybe in college football, but not here. We've got unpredictability. We got parity here. In Vegas, 3-1 in the calendar year. They beat the Nashville Predators at home to start the year, 3-0. Tough loss at St. Louis. That's okay on the 4th. But then last Friday night, they went into Chicago and they beat the Blackhawks 5-4. And yes, they beat Rangers. You know, it is what it is there. But nonetheless, 2-1 on Sunday night. They haven't played since then, but they're back at it. Tomorrow night, they host the young men who I call the hype, you know, Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers. And then they go to Nashville on Tuesday. Tough game there. And then maybe a possible Stanley Cup final preview against Tampa Bay on Thursday in Tampa. And then they go to Florida next Friday. And then Saturday the 21st, they're at Carolina. 23rd, they host Columbus. And then they host the Islanders to close out the All-Star break. So, man, 5th in goals scored. They're 6th in goals against. I mean, the goaltending of Fleury and Subban definitely makes them worthy for the Jennings Trophy, no question about it. And James Neal, without question, has emerged as definitely a front runner for the Hart Memorial Trophy if he keeps doing what he's doing. I mean, if this team keeps doing what they're doing the remainder of the way, this could be the greatest first-year story we've seen since the 1996 Colorado Avalanche. Remember 96 Colorado? First year as the Colorado Avalanche after all those years they were the Quebec Nordiques. What did they do? Oh, not much. All they did was just win the Stanley Cup. That's all they did. Including beating a record-setting Detroit Red Wing team to do it. Well, to get to the final, and then a 4-game sweep of an upstart Florida Panther team that year. But man alive, I mean, if MF was to ask me, do you think this team has what it takes to go to the finals? Absolutely. Without question. They keep doing what they're doing. We could see this team in June. And here's one more quick stat that you all need to know. They have the best home record in the NHL. You know what their record at T-Mobile Arena is this year, friends? Listen to this. 18-2-1. 18-2-1. At home. If this team gets home ice advantage throughout, I mean, as of right now, if the season were to end today, the road to the Stanley Cup Finals in the West would go through Las Vegas, Nevada. Imagine that. And if that happens, oh boy, we could see this team in the finals. And if they were to do the unthinkable and go all the way and win the Stanley Cup, which I think they've got a legitimate chance to do, this would trump the 96 Colorado Avalanche. And this would far and away be the greatest first-year story ever. Hollywood couldn't even write a better script than this. Unreal. But we'll see as time progresses. So they are number one for now. The Vegas Golden Knights, the toast of the league. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That puts the bow on this edition of season premiere of Strictly Sports. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in. Of course, we're going to get into our shout-outs here. So MF or Bullock, whoever wants it first, take it. And then I'll set up the future content and the whole basket here. So
yes, indeed. First off, I want to say thank you to all the great fans out there for making the show as unbelievable as it is. You guys are the best fans in the world. You guys already know that. To our friends in the junior high and high school days, love you guys. To the super fans, you guys know who you guys are. My 2184 crew, love you guys to death. And that's it for me. So we'll see you guys next week. So until then, Mike Fletcher, you know the routine, Honey Ham Hounds. I'm out. Good night. Michael Bullock, it's yours.
Yes, of course. Shout out to all of our tremendous fans out there who continue to support our shows. Of course, shout out to all of our super fans out there. You guys know who you are. Of course, to all of our friends from our high school days, you guys know who you are. To all of our local personalities from 6, 10, and 12. Our national personalities from ESPN, Fox Sports, MLB Network, NFL Network, NHL Network, NBA TV. Of course, our friends from the Road Show, all the former co-hosts of the Road Show. So, yeah, that's going to do it for me. So, until Monday night for Ridiculously Raw, this is Mike Bullock saying thank you all so very much for tuning in. Of course, you know the routine. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah, throw it up Fortune 4 style. Bye for now and enjoy the rest of your weekend. So, Florio, take us home.
Yeah, we'll do, Bullock. Of course, special shout out to all of our tremendous fans and viewers out there. Continue to make our shows as over as they are. We appreciate it as always. Best fans in the world. Special shout outs to Dee Woodson and family. A new addition on the way. We want to congratulate them. Our first family of our shows. Our first lady of the wrestling forum, the Twisted Angel, Dee Woodson, along with Kevin and the kids and the rest of the family. I mean, a new addition coming their way. We want to send out our heartfelt congratulations to all of them. Of course, Matt Ward, a very excited Jason Hicksonball, excited about Alabama, of course, winning the national championship. And of course, our first ladies, Kaiser Butler, Megan Silva, and Lexi Calloway, and our crew members, Tommy Souza, Eric Carrier, Jimmy Alden, Al Braderson, Rob Parsons, and of course, the man himself, Bullet Club Soldier 445, Derek Ferreira, and all of our personalities from 6, 10, and 12, ESPN, FS1, NHL Network, and MLB Network, NFL Network, NBA TV, Chantel McCabe from the Golf Channel, Status Terrell, Lindsay McCormick, of course, our friends from the Road Show, Will Gilbert, Brendan Kirby, and Michaela Johnson, along with Megan Mooney and Mary Larson. And of course, last but certainly not least, my wonderful church family and friends at Oasis of Grace Ministries on 464 Silver Spring Street in Providence. If you need a church home, check them out. Exit 25 off Route 95. Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Bible study, sometime after 10 service, and Wednesday night at 7 Bible study. Other things going on, and that was the reason why I was not on the show last week. As you know, last week I was at the set Oasis Grace for a very special Friday night service, and it was one of the greatest things I've ever been a part of. If you read my recent Facebook post about that, so and that's why I had to have MF fill in on such short notice a week ago, because that service went a lot longer than I initially had thought. But that's why I wasn't here last week. I'm glad I was able to be here this time around. So I just wanted to explain that, and a big shout out to MF as well for filling in on such short notice. I mean, it was very short notice, but nonetheless, he filled in, and he filled in admirably. I watched the show back. You guys did a great job. You did it justice as always. So I knew you guys wouldn't let me down. So I knew I was in good hands. So that's it. So Monday night, of course, we got Ridiculously Raw. Enzo Amore, Cedric Alexander, Cruiserweight Championship. Well, that got added to the Royal Rumble. So we'll see what happens coming up. San Antonio, Monday night. Of course, my Tony Steak on 205 Live and Impact Wrestling. Tuesday night, we got the Cerebral Smack Talk with MF over on his channel, Race 95, SmackDown Live. Maybe some Mikey's Mindset stuff, we'll see. And then next Friday, Strictly Sports. We'll see what Derek has on the docket. Two things that we already know are penciled in. Our preview of the AFC and NFC championship games. And I'm pretty certain, and I'm almost certain we're probably going to be doing our first NBA power rankings of the season next week. And then we'll see what else is on the docket for next week as soon as Derek and crew come up with it. So that's it. So until Monday night for Ridiculously Raw, it's Anthony Florio here For good old MF Michael Fletcher, for Michael Bullock, and in spirit, Didi Woodson and Derek Ferreira. You know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah. Throw it up Fortune 4 style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed weekend. Enjoy all of the NFL divisional playoff action. And until Monday night for Ridiculously Raw, you were watching Strictly Sports right here on the Tone 25 and YouTube.com. For everybody who's been a part of this one, for now, Anthony Florio